Welcome to Taking Care of Your Music Business, brought to you by the Mechanical Licensing Collective, also known as the MLC. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the heart of the music industry, exploring how to get paid as a creative, making sure that you're receiving all the royalties you deserve. We'll also dive into building a sustainable career, sharing strategies and best practices that creators can use to achieve long-term success. Join us as we bring you interviews with top songwriters and music executives who share their personal journeys and professional wisdom on thriving in the business, all while making a living. So get ready for some real talk about navigating the music industry. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and be sure to catch all of our full episodes on YouTube.
So the law said not only will we create a blanket license, we must also create a mechanical licensing collective to administer this new license, to collect those monies, pay those monies out.
Hello, y'all, and welcome to Taking Care of Your Music Business, presented by the Mechanical Licensing Collective, better known as the MLC. I'm your host, Lillian Glanton, and we're excited to kick this thing off. We'd like to welcome Serona Elton to the podcast today. Serona is the head of educational partnerships at the MLC. She is also director of the music industry program at the Frost School of Music at the University of Miami. She's an educator. She's a go-getter. Today, we talk about what the MLC does, how they collect money from digital music services, and also how the MLC can ultimately benefit you as a songwriter. Here we go. Welcome, guys, to Taking Care of Your Music Business, presented by the Mechanical Licensing Collective. And I have a very special guest on today. We have Miss Serona Elton. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. We're so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for being here. So I kind of want to start off with who you are. So can you share some highlights from your professional journey that kind of led you to your current role as head of educational partnerships at the Mechanical Licensing Collective?
Sure. So I knew I wanted to be involved in the music industry in junior high school, if you can believe that.
No way.
And so I did music industry related activities in college, and then decided to pursue a master's degree in music industry at the University of Miami. Keep that in mind. I'll come back to that in a second.
Okay.
So studied music industry in college for a graduate degree, then moved to the Big Apple, moved to New York, and worked for one of the major record companies, EMI, which later was purchased as part of Universal Music Group today. But EMI was a major record company, worked there for 8 years. And while I was working there, I also went to law school while working there. But one of the things I got very involved in there was mechanical licensing. And it was the early days of getting ready to launch iTunes. Digital was coming, and we needed to secure a lot of mechanical licenses to put out digital products. And so I stepped in and took over that project and just really immersed myself in the topic. So this has been a long time in coming. I then, did some other things for a couple of years, worked for Sony Music for many years, Universal Music as well, and then ended up at Warner Music Group. And in all those different companies, I did a lot of work with their mechanical licensing departments or their artist royalties departments or information management, sort of music metadata. Those have been those kind of sweet spots in the industry I've always been involved in. And then in 2020, I left Warner to come to the MLC. I knew about the MLC long before it happened, and the Music Modernization Act that created it. We've been talking about something like an MLC for a long time in the industry. And so I just knew for a long, long time that I wanted to be a part of it. And what the MLC has done is, aside from what it does, but in terms of my career, I get to be an educator, which is my other job. So when I left EMI and moved back to South Florida, which is where I live, Miami area, after a bit of time, I decided to pursue becoming a professor. And so that is my actual full-time gig. I'm a professor of music industry, and I'm the chair of the music industry program at the Frost School of Music at the University of Miami. And what the MLC has done for me is this amazing ability to bring together all of those years of doing doing mechanical licensing, paying mechanical royalties from a record company perspective, right? Learning the ropes, combining that with my job as an educator, so that now I'm teaching people about mechanical licensing. So it's this amazing convergence of those two things, those two lives coming together.
Yeah, you get the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
So for those who are unfamiliar, what is the MLC?
Sure. So the MLC is a relatively new organization that exists very specifically to administer a type of music licensing, a mechanical license. So in part of that work, what that involves is we collect a certain type of royalties from digital music services, digital mechanical royalties from those services, and then we pay that money out to the rights holders who are entitled to it. And we exist on the side of the business that is the music publishing side, as opposed to the sound recording side, right? The music industry very much has like a publishing and a record side. So we live on the publishing side of the house. That's what mechanical royalties are. It's money that's due to the publishers and songwriters. And so we collect that kind of money from digital music services in the US and pay that money out to music publishers, generally speaking, and songwriters who are acting as their own music publishers.
Okay, gotcha. And you guys are a nonprofit organization.
We are a nonprofit organization. We are also very heavily regulated by federal law and federal regulations. This change in the law, the Music Modernization Act that led to our creation, it's very specific about the kinds of activities we must do and the things we're not allowed to do. So we're not a government agency or anything like that, but we are heavily governed by federal law and regulations.
What is the MLC's mission?
The MLC's mission is to collect all of the royalties that are due and get them paid, right? We want to be able to say that we are paying everybody who is entitled to this money. So our mission is to pay people accurately and in a timely basis.
That's awesome. So as head of educational partnerships, what are the key aspects of your role? What does that typically look like on a day-to-day basis?
So it's a very unique role, I should say. If you were to try to say, well, who are the heads of educational partnerships at all the other music companies, you won't find them. It doesn't exist. And it was a unique role that was really needed around the launch of the MLC because what we do is a bit complicated. And, unlike trying to sell a product or something, we have to explain to people, what is this about, right? And how do you collect this money? So my job really, there's a couple of parts to it. A lot of what I do is about creating materials and programs that are for music industry professors and students studying music industry. So that's a lot of what I do. And we have educator ambassador programs, student ambassador programs, an educator toolkit that many educators around the country have downloaded, and now they use it when they're teaching their students about what the MLC is. But in addition to that, a lot of our educational materials, like some key diagrams that we use and some resources and infographics we've created, I'm often the main person designing those. And I do a lot of public speaking, explaining what the MLC is on panels at conferences and workshops, webinars, that kind of thing.
Which, by the way, for everyone listening, we have some incredible webinars over at the MLC there.
We are very proud of our webinars.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yes. And they're free.
They're free.
They're an incredible resource for songwriters, for sure. So the MLC, was designated by the U.S. Copyright Office after the passing of the Music Modernization Act. In regards to that, could you share insights into why the MLC was created and what role the MLC was designated to fill? And I know we've kind of touched on that a little bit, but how does the process work logistically?
Sure. And I think to understand how the process works, you have to understand the change, like what happened before and why did we need this change and now how does it work, right? So in music licensing overall, and forgive me, I'm going to get a little professor-like on you here, okay?
No, that's great.
In music licensing, right? Music licensing really follows kind of at least two fundamental models. Either you do it on a work by work basis or you do it on a blanket basis. So work by work means that if you want to use a piece of music somehow, you need to find out who all the copyright owners are. You need to contact each one of them individually and request a license, right? And if you want to use 5 different works, you got to do that for each one of them. Or if you need to do that for 500, you're doing that 500 times or 5 million times, right? Work by work licensing. We still have several examples of that in the music industry. For example, something we call synchronization licensing, which is the use of music in like film or TV. That is done on a work by work basis. That's not very efficient at scale. So you hear reports of companies like Spotify saying that they're getting upwards of 100,000 new sound recordings uploaded to their service per day. Per day. That's mind blowing, right? And you have to think similar kinds of numbers are probably also going up on the other services like Apple Music, right? A work by work licensing model would mean that Spotify, separately from Apple Music, for example, each have to track down who the owners are of each of the songs in each of those 100,000 recordings per day and get a license from them. That doesn't work. Okay. So that was the model that we had. And it's the model record companies have been doing for a long, long time. But record companies, generally, there's just a natural limit to how many recordings they put out because they're usually funding their creation and they're not going to put them into the marketplace if they're not going to put some marketing behind them. So, even the biggest record labels don't put out 100,000 new recordings a month, right? Or a day or month or year. Mm-hmm. So, that model was not working for the digital music services. A lot of people were not getting their mechanical royalties, especially the little guy. The small publishers, the independent songwriters didn't know how to collect this money. How do they go after it? Where do they get it? How does this work? People were not happy. Everybody was suing everybody, and everybody realized this is just really not working. So there was a change in the law, the Music Modernization Act, the MMA for short. It actually has 3 different sections to the law, all of which are critically important in the music industry. Only one of them has to do with what we do. And it changed the way mechanical licensing works for digital services and said, we're going to create an additional way you can do this, separate from that work by work model that you can still follow if you want to. We're going to create a blanket model. Blanket licensing means that if you're the user and you want to use 500 songs or 5,000 or 5 million, you only need one license from one central organization, perhaps, or several. That's the model that all the performing rights organizations follow. So let's say you're an FM radio station, you get a license from BMI, you don't get a separate license per song you play. You get a license from BMI and ASCAP and, all the other PROs, and that covers all your public performance licensing because each one of them is giving you a blanket license, right? It covers lots of songs. So the law created a blanket mechanical license for digital music services. Record labels are still following the work by work model for their physical products, but it created this new approach for digital. But when you have a blanket model, you need at least one central organization to collect that information and those royalties and pay that out. So the law said, not only will we create a blanket license, we must also create a mechanical licensing collective to administer this new license, to collect those monies, pay those monies out. So those 2 developments in the law really went hand in hand. So that's why we're here. We're here. And, mechanical licensing collective is such a snappy name, right? Just rolls off the tongue. That's why we like to say the MLC for short. But the law, literally, Section 115 of the copyright law says mechanical licensing collective. So that's why we are here. This change in the law. So there's a couple of key things that we do. A digital service like Spotify has to file paperwork with us and has already, as have many others, to indicate that they want to operate under this blanket license. And then they have requirements to report data to us and pay royalties to us on a monthly basis. And then we collect that money and pay that money out. So that's really what we're here to do is that work of finding the rights holders, making sure that they know what they have to do to collect this money and paying them that money if they're going to be collecting it directly from us.
That is amazing. And you touched on a PRO performance rights organization. What is the difference for those who might not be familiar with what a PRO is?
Sure. So again, I'm going to get a little professory here on you, right? So if you're the owner of a copyright, the copyright law grants you a set of exclusive rights. That means those are things you have control over, okay? And if you are the owner of the copyright in a song or a musical work, as the copyright law calls it, you have 5 different exclusive rights, all right? The different ways we use music in the industry can all be connected back to those different rights. So one of those rights is the right to control public performance of your songs. And the way we handle that right, how do you monetize that? How do you monitor that? How does that work, right? We have performing rights organizations that do that. They grant these blanket performing rights licenses to radio stations, concert halls, nightclubs, and digital music services. And they collect those performance royalties from those organizations and pay that money out. Other rights include the right to reproduce and distribute a song as a sound recording. That is the mechanical right. And we collect money for that. So we sit alongside of PROs. They collect performance royalties and pay those out. We collect mechanical royalties and pay those out. Some uses of music are only a performance. Some are only a mechanical. Some are both. So they're similar to us, but there's a couple of, nuanced differences there too.
Yeah, wow. I just feel like I'm getting class 101.
Luckily, though, there's
just
no
MLC 101. Yes, right? If you would have put a piece of paper and said, okay, here you go.
You just get 45 minutes for listening. It's just that easy.
No, it's so interesting and so incredible that we live at this this day and age where you guys exist specifically for songwriters. Because songwriters are usually the low man on the totem pole, right? So let's talk about the benefits for songwriters. Why is it important for self-administered songwriters to become members of the MLC, which, let me mention, it is completely free to join, and it's super simple. I'm a member. It was so quick and easy to set up my account. So why is it important for songwriters to become a part of the MLC and join?
Great question. So first, I need to be clear which songwriters need to join, because it is not the case that all songwriters need to join. And this is, again, like why the MLC realized it'd be a great idea to have an educator help explain this stuff, because it's nuanced, right?
Yep.
So if you're a songwriter, I have a very easy message to tell you about getting your performance royalties. Every songwriter needs to join a PRO. That's 100%. A super easy, simple message. Every songwriter join a PRO. There you go. I'm done. Mic drop. It's not quite such an easy thing to say about the MLC, however. So the way mechanical royalties have always worked in this industry is that typically mechanical royalties are paid to the music publisher. And then the music publisher pays the songwriter. That is a different model than, for example, when ASCAP collects $100, they generally pay half of that money to the publishers and half of that money directly to the writers, right?
Yeah.
So in the PRO model, the writers are getting their money from the PRO, not their publisher, okay? Mechanicals works differently. Generally, the mechanical model is the Mechanical Rights Society pays 100% of the money to the music publisher, and then the music publisher pays the writer based on whatever their contract says, okay?
Gotcha.
So what this means for a songwriter is if you are a songwriter where there is a music publisher or what we call a publishing administrator, which is like a publisher, but they only do the administrative stuff, not the creative stuff. So if you have a music publisher or a publishing administrator that is handling the administration, in other words, handling the business of your songs, you will not join the MLC. We pay your publisher or we pay your publishing administrator, and then they pay you. But if you are acting as that party, right? If you've never done a deal with a publisher, you've never signed up with a publishing administrator until this is the default position, right?
Yeah.
All songwriters start off as like self-published or self-administered. You start there. That only changes if you enter into a publishing deal or you sign up with a publishing administrator. But if you've never done any of those things, you, my friend, are a publisher. Okay? You may mainly consider yourself a songwriter, but technically you're a songwriter and a publisher.
Yeah.
In which case, you should join the MLC because you are the publisher and we will pay you. But we're not paying you like a writer share because you're the writer. We are paying you because you are the publisher. And then you can pay yourself, right? So the other thing there is, we've got a lot of writers out there who've been doing this for a minute. And maybe they had a publishing deal and they wrote 20 songs, and those songs now are going to be handled by that publisher until the copyright runs out. But they're no longer, signed with that publisher. Now they're doing their own thing, and they've written another 30 songs that they are handling, right? So that's somebody where part of their catalog is administered by somebody else, but part of their catalog is administered by them. That person needs to become a member of the MLC, but we will only work with them on those songs that they administer because they're the publisher of that last 30. They're not the publisher of the first set, right? So it's all down to the song. Who is the publishing administrator of the song? That is who needs to join the MLC.
And of course, when a song is written, they would upload it, whether it be their publisher or if they're acting as if they're the songwriter and the publisher, they would upload that material.
Right. So
it's created.
Correct. So generally though, because people, I know some songwriters and I feel like every week they crank out like another 10 songs. It's just their minds I'm in awe of their talents, right? You don't need to register every single song you've ever written with the MLC. Okay. Because the truth is we're not going to do anything with it until there's a sound recording of it that's up on a digital music service in the US, right? So, you don't want to create extra work if you don't have to. You don't have to register every single song ever, right? But the trigger there is this going to be, or has it been already, turn into a sound recording that is now up on digital services in the US? That's your trigger that says, I need to register this song with the MLC. And you're giving us some information about the song and you're telling us what share of ownership are you claiming. If you wrote the whole song, it's 100%. Maybe you co-wrote it with somebody and okay, you guys decided between you, how are you dividing up 100%? You're only going to set up that portion, that share that applies to you. That's what it means when you register with us. You tell us about the song and you enter your share percent of it.
Gotcha. And if you are acting as if you are a songwriter and a publisher, would the songwriter need to set up their own publishing company?
They don't have to.
Okay.
And it also changes over time, right? So maybe you're like, I just want to get in there and get this done right now. And, I'm Serona Elton. I'm just going to join as Serona Elton. I don't have a company, Serona Elton, no problem. Maybe later I create Serona songs, and I also set that up with BMI, and I'm like, hey, MLC, I want all this to be under Serona songs now. All right, no problem. You can contact our support team, and they could switch it from Serona Elton to Serona songs. And then maybe also I decide later on, I actually want to create a LLC. Like I'm going all in. I'm going to create a company, and it turns out that for some reason I can't call it Serona Songs. It has to be Serona Music LLC. Okay, no problem. You contact our support team again and go, hey, by the way, now I've created this LLC, which has a different tax ID, right? I need to switch my songs over to that now. Still no problem, right? Because, it's a journey. And where you're at right now might change. And then let's say I've done all that. And then along comes a big publisher and they want to do a big deal with me and the price is right. And I'm like, okay. And so now all those songs need to switch over to such and such publishing. Also not a problem. When that time comes, there's a process of moving that catalog from Serona Music LLC to whatever publisher. So it's not fixed in stone. It's an evolution, but you don't have to create a business and go through the process of creating, like a LLC tax ID. You don't have to do all that at all to join the MLC. You can join right now as an individual.
That's so wonderful. And that does happen a lot where you have successful songwriters that move from publisher to publisher.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so we are used to moving the song administration around. The publishing business is a forever moving target of song administration changes all the time. That's that's normal, not a problem. It's the nature of the business. It's the nature of the business.
Let's say I put a song out, it starts collecting some money. How long does it take for me to get my funds from you guys?
Yes, so we're really proud of the fact that we're super transparent about this. Like, I think when we put this up there on our website, I don't know that I saw any other organization that put out something quite so clear. We have a specific timeline, and it's 75 days is the lag period. So let's say a stream happened of a sound recording of your song on Spotify in January, right? That will end up on a royalty statement coming to you in mid-April. And we have a whole page on our website that explains all of this. You have to get to the end of the month the activity happened, and then it's 75 days. And during that time period, there's a whole lot of stuff happening. The way the royalties are calculated, like Spotify can't even begin to total up what the royalties are going to be until the month is finished. So you have to have the month finished.
Gotcha.
And then they're doing a bunch of data compilation, and they're sending stuff to us, and we're calculating and telling them what they owe us. And, we're trying to match up those sound recording usage information to the related song in our database and totaling up how much to pay and getting a bank transfer ready. Like, there's a lot happening during that time period, but that is the general time period of assuming your song is in our database. Let's say that stream happened in January. If your song is in our database by the 10th day of February, and our matching computers and people are able to match up that sound recording to that song, then it ends up on your April royalty statement. That's the time horizon.
And it is direct deposit?
Yes. So once you become a member, you're not done. That's like step one of three.
Step one, yeah.
Or almost step one of four, right? 1, you join for free. 2, you set up your banking details. The money doesn't just rain down from the heavens and show up in your mailbox.
We're not just pick you up out, from the world and say, "Oh, you're John.
We're just
Here's
going to
your
guess
check."
your bank account at so and so. You have to set up your banking details. Okay, that's step 2. Step 3 is you have to register your songs and tell us that you own 50% of that song, and then so that's all like required to get paid.
I've got a question about that. When you register your material, are you also putting in your co-writers' names as well, or just your percentage?
So there is a writer field where you can put in all the names of all the writers. That is metadata, but that's not telling us anything about who owns what rights or anything. So yes, we encourage you to fill in the writer field completely, but you are only setting up your claim with your share percent. So you will not be making a claim on behalf of your co-writers. They need to sign up or have a publishing administrator claim their share. So in the writer field, yes, complete writer names, please. But then you're only entering your claim, and you don't have to wait for them to also get around to doing it for you to get paid. Once you are in there with your claim, you're good, and we can pay you.
And I just want to say something too for the listener. Most of the time in country music, it's split right down the middle. So if it's you, let's say Sally and I write a song, it's a 50-50 split. I know that in Los Angeles, in the pop world, sometimes they can tend to do it a bit differently.
Oh, yeah.
So make sure too, as a tip, to talk with your co-writer and figure out how you guys are splitting this up.
Or co-writers.
Or co-writers.
The top, hip-hop songs have 11 co-writers.
Oh, right? Yeah, it's unreal.
It's unreal. But here's the truth, right? For the most part, most royalty monies out there are going to be held up from being paid properly if you have not all agreed how you're going to divide up that 100%. So it's a really important best practice for all songwriters to adopt is how and when are you going to have that conversation with your co-writers and memorialize how you're dividing up 100%. You'd be shocked across the whole industry how much money gets held up where everybody knows who to pay, but if you don't have that agreement on how to divide up 100%, no one's getting paid, right? So, so important.
Yeah, co-writers are like business partners.
They are.
In a sense.
They are. I mean, it's a beautiful creative process, but what just happened was also business. And, unless you're just doing it purely for the love of it, assuming you actually want to get paid, which most songwriters would like to, you've got to agree those splits.
Can you tell me a little bit about the MLC in terms of education? I know we touched on it a little bit, but what exactly do you guys do and what do you offer? Outside of, for one, being this podcast, because it's completely free. But what else do you offer outside of that?
So I'll break that into two categories, right? Okay. One is the broadest category that's for everybody, our members and anybody who just wants to know, right? So we've got a couple different kinds of resources. Our website is a great place to start, themlc.com. We have a whole area called resources with all sorts of information. We have something else called how it works that explains how it works. We've got a frequently asked questions section, right? Lots of great stuff on the website. We also have a YouTube channel that's got lots of great videos. Some of them are animated, short, like just get straight to the point, explain this to me in 2 minutes or less, as well as recordings of hour-long webinars where we dove deeply into something or explained how to register a song, right? So our YouTube channel is full of great videos as well. So those are things that are out there for everybody, right? Separately from that, a bit more of what I do are some tools that are made specifically for educators. So college educators, we have this educator toolkit that is meant to be given a set of information to a professor who then wants to use it in class, right? And we've got different kinds of programs for educators, and a student ambassador program as well, where students can help get the word out to their fellow classmates. So from an educator tool set, there's a whole bunch of information for educators as well as a student program as well. Those are targeted at those particular groups of people.
That is so great. Yeah, that's really cool that you guys have separate sections for both. To get started with the MLC, what should be a songwriter's first step? Go to the website. I know you guys also have a support line. Can they call that as well? Which is so cool because it's hard to get anybody on the phone these days within a company. You guys answer the phone, and your customer support team is so incredible. I had a couple of questions at one point in time, and I just was like, I'm just going to give them a call, and you guys answered.
We answered the phone.
Yes.
You usually get somebody on the phone in under a minute. It's really pretty mind blowing. So yeah, certainly if you check out those resources I mentioned on our website and our YouTube channel, you don't have the answer you need, just reach out to us. You don't have to be a member to contact our support team. They're happy to help, get you whatever answer you need, right? But what I would say is the first thing a songwriter needs to figure out is, are you currently acting as the administrator, the publishing administrator for any of your songs? That's the first thing you need to figure out. Because if the answer is no, if you're like, no, I'm with the publisher, all my songs are with the publisher, well, then your activity, you're not going to join the MLC, but you should look up your song in our public database.
Yes,
make sure it's the
coolest thing ever.
Make sure that you see your publisher name there with your share. That tells you that we are paying your publisher, right? But if you see something wrong there, you need to take that up with your publisher. They're the one who can correct that. So first thing is, am I the administrator of any of my songs, right? If the answer is no, then it's public search and work with your publisher to fix anything. But if the answer is yes, I am the administrator of some songs that have been recorded and are put out there, then you need to decide, okay, am I gonna, at that point, you need to decide if you want to go sign up with a publishing administrator or if you want to come to the MLC. We are happy either way, right? At the end of the day, we want that song in our database. We want it fully claimed so that we can get those people paid, whether that's you directly or your publishing administrator. That's all beautiful. Whatever works for you at the stage of your professional development you're in, we just want to get that song paid. So if you decide, nope, right now it's me, then you need to become a member of the MLC. And the way you do that, you go to themlc.com. Up in the top right is a big button that says Connect to Collect. That's our little catchphrase.
I love that.
Connect with the MLC to collect your digital mechanical royalties. So that's what that means. Click on that button, fill out some information so we can confirm your identity. And then you're going to end up telling us, do you want to be Serona Elton? Do you want to be Serona Songs? Is it Serona Music LLC with a different tax ID? We'll walk you through those points. And if you have any questions along the way, you can reach out to the support team to be like, I started filling this out, but I wasn't sure if I should do X or Y, right? They'll help you with all that. So you become a member. Then you set up your banking details. Then you register those songs with us.
One, I've got a question about registering your songs. Mm-hmm. Do you have to upload a recording
Nope.
of the song. So just a lyric sheet
It's just
will
the
do.
data. You don't
Just
even upload
the
a lyric
data.
sheet. Right. You're registering the song information with us. So you're not providing a lyric sheet or recordings or anything like that. You are just providing basically metadata. You're providing information. That's what metadata is. It's just a set of information about the song. And we have a couple different ways you can do that, right? We have like a small, medium, large solution, right? So first thing is you will search our database to see if we might already have some information about your song in there that's just waiting for you to come along and finish filling it out, right? Maybe you have a co-writer and your co-writer already jumped ahead of you. Great. They put in their 50%. No problem. You don't have to set that song up from scratch. You'll just see it in the database and go, oh, let me add my 50% claim to it. Bam.
There we
done,
go.
Right? So that's always the first starting point, is to see if we've got some starter information in there. But then if it's not there at all and you have to enter it from scratch, we've got small, medium, large. So small, type it on the website screen. Just fill in some fields, right? Fill it in. That's easy if you don't have a lot of songs to register. Medium is spreadsheet upload. Maybe you do have a lot of songs to register. We have a specific kind of format you can download, get the data in the right format in a spreadsheet and upload the spreadsheet. Or if you're working at a music publisher, there's some special software out there in the industry where out of their own internal systems, they can create a digital file that they can send to us with that information in there. So that's for like large catalogs. So whichever of those three things, works best for you, that's how you get those songs in our database. So those are the three required: join, banking, register your songs. But the fourth important thing that is optional, but I'm assuming you want to get paid, so it's a super helpful thing to do, is to use something called our matching tool. So those digital music services, every month, they report what we call recording usage information to us, okay? So they tell us about the sound recording. They say this sound recording with this title by this artist was streamed this many times. Sometimes they tell us the songwriter name, sometimes they don't. Okay, so they're telling us sound recording information. We have to match that to the song information in our database. We call that matching, right? In order to get you paid, we have to match that sound recording to your song and then pay you. So we have this amazing tool that we're super proud of. It's so in line with our kind of transparency DNA. It's called our matching tool. So you can look up in that tool sound recordings of your songs to see if any of them are still waiting to be matched. And you can find them. You can even click on some buttons and hear it for a second, because it might be a song called like I Love You. There's probably a zillion of those.
Yeah.
Is that your song? Like you can listen to a little bit and be like, that's my song. Click, click, click. And you ask us to go ahead and match it. And it doesn't matter if it's a very small amount of money. That's irrelevant. We will match those things if you find them. So we've got smart computers, smart software, smart humans, all working on matching all day, every day. That's the heavy lift that we do. But we also have brought sort of more power to the people where you can look through as well anything we have not yet been able to match and help us find those matches to help make sure you're not missing out on any money.
That's so awesome. Tell everybody one more time the website.
TheMLC.com, TheMLC.com.
Guys, go register. The MLC is thebomb.com. They're so incredible. I love you guys so much. I remember the first time that I met, some of the girls that were involved and guys too involved with the MLC. And I was like, I just love these people. You guys are so passionate about making sure songwriters get paid.
We really
are. It's so important for them to get paid because, like I said earlier, songwriters are usually the low man on the totem pole. And without songwriters, we don't have music.
They don't.
We really don't. So they're such an important part of the music industry, and you guys fight for them every single day. And I'm grateful for you guys. And I know there's several songwriters that are already signed up that are grateful for you guys as well.
Yeah, no, and we love the success stories, get paid and then tell somebody, right? All of you listening are now, I just drafted you all to be ambassadors and get the message out, right? Get your money and make sure all the songwriters are also getting their money, right? Either from us directly or through a publishing administrator, but don't leave that money on the table. It's your money, right? It's your money.
Yes.
But it won't just land land in your lap. You have to take the steps to collect it. We are going to hold your hand through that process to make sure that you get it. But it's been wonderful to be working for such a mission-driven organization where everybody is so clear on what we're trying to accomplish. And every day, every time we, send that first payment to somebody, we're like, yes, making songwriters feel seen just one writer at a time.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much, Serona, for coming today. This has been
great. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Wow, what an awesome episode. Thank you, Serona, for being here and for sharing a behind-the-curtain view of the ins and outs of the Mechanical Licensing Collective. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd greatly appreciate it if you left us a review, and please subscribe so you never miss an update or future episodes. Stay connected by following us on social media at MLC_US or visit us on the web at themlc.com. Got a music business question? Reach out to our podcast hotline at podcast@themlc.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.